What's up, guys? My name is Josh. Today we're going to be talking about Daft Punk's Tron Legacy soundtrack. And welcome to Music Mondays episode 3. So Tron Legacy soundtrack is the soundtrack for the movie Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy as a movie is kind of love it or hate it. Some people loved the movie, thought it was groundbreaking. Some people didn't like the movie all that much. I was kind of near, the positive end. I wouldn't say I totally overzealously loved it or anything like that, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. But what I really loved about it was the score. This is one of those albums similar to other albums that I have reviewed where this score is so cinematic. It's so grand in scale. And one of the really impressive things about it is that it scales really well with the different levels of gear or different quality of sound that you were listening to it on. So I was listening to it on the Edition XX, the Ether CX, and the LCD2Cs as well. I also listened to it on the Van2 T10s, the ELAC UV5s, and the KEF Q100s. And this album seems to have its own sound signature, and I mean that compared to a bunch of other types of music, a bunch of other genres. This album, to me, really stands out as being particularly unique. It's a really impressive album. I really, really like it, personally, if you couldn't tell. So the soundtrack is actually pretty big. It's got about 22 songs on the actual album itself. I'm only going to be talking about a few, highlighting the ones that I think particularly stood out or that I really loved. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the Son of Flynn is where I think this album's magic really starts. The song is short, but it's filled with magic. Like, it's really good. And this is really where the uniqueness of this album really comes into. Previously, the other, I think, song or two that was before the Son of Flynn is, it's very symphony-like, right? It's pretty generic in terms of symphony. Yes, it sounds good. The progression is all great and fun. And it still has its own unique sound signature and doesn't really sound like anything else for a symphony. But when you start introducing those really electronic notes, and start, kind of twisting that into the fabric of the song, that is what I really, really dig about the Son of Flynn. And the Son of Flynn is kind of a more repetitive beat, and normally I'm just okay on repetitive beats. I don't really tend to love a lot of the electronic music that tends to be really, really repetitive, but this, and partially because the song is so short, this is perfectly accessible to me, and I actually really like the repetitiveness of it. I don't like that it's trying to go, all over the place and bob and weave into certain things. I like that it just kind of stays with what it's good at, and it does it super, super well. And it also happens to be an extremely beautiful sequence in the movie. Okay, now Arena is an awesome song. I also love this one. It's super high intensity. If you've ever driven and listened to the Tron Legacy soundtrack, it's one of the greatest driving soundtracks ever, by the way. But Arena is just kind of this fast-paced, kind of, quickly building type of song, and I really, really love that. It's good for multiple scenarios, working out in the gym. It's awesome. So Adagio, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. I apologize. For Tron, that's the name, like Adagio for Tron is the name. This is probably my second most played track of this entire album, I have to admit. The combination here of strings, you get that classic symphonic note, those classic symphonic sounds, and then the kind of electronic music that they mix those two so well, like better than just about any other artist that I think I've ever seen is able to mix like the real live recordings with the electronic recordings. And I mean, yes, it's not auditorily blended together as perfectly as some others perhaps, but what it is just like the beat of the music, the flow of the songs are just so clean. And this is one of the best implementations of that. And in fact, I think they have an organ in this track. And I don't think there's an organ in any of the other songs. I could be wrong on that. I definitely didn't pick it up on any of the other songs, but this track definitely had an organ in it. And I'm also a huge fan of the Hans Zimmer Interstellar album, which heavily featured an organ. And I think that is, if properly utilized, can be one of the most amazing instruments ever created. It's really, really fantastic. Okay, so End of the Line. End of the Line I love because it's extraordinarily unique. Like, it still fits the uniqueness of the entire album. Like, it's still, you're able to insert it into the album and it fits. It's not completely stand out but it is separated from the others. It doesn't have the same beat. It doesn't have the same tonality to it. It doesn't have the same kind of flow that the other songs do, yet they're able to make that kind of segment fit in with the rest. And it really competes, the Rubik's Cube of the Tron Legacy soundtrack. And so I give them full credit for being able to create something so different, but not too different to where it's unrecognizable. But it's also not too similar as to blend in with the rest. It's extraordinarily different, actually. Yet it still has, I don't know if it's just the same use of instruments or the same use of tones or the same use of, just kind of re-realized into a different form. But whatever it is, it's great. Now, the last song on here, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about. It's Rectifier. It's badass. Just absolutely monstrous. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Love that song. All right, so as far as speakers or headphones go, I'm going to give this one to speakers. And the reason why is just because the scale of everything, its ability to seem huge and massive, and especially with songs like Rectifier, you can really get this just super impressive scale, this really impressive performance. And it sounds great on headphones, but you really don't get kind of the real, the meat behind it until you get in on a good pair of speakers. So I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. I would love to know your thoughts on this album, and I also want to know any albums that you guys recommend in the future. And I think next week I'm going to have the first user recommendation album, so that should be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching. My name's Josh, signing off.